Remember my fret wire organizing block? It doubles as a fret end beveler. I cut a slot and installed half of a file. I can't remember what this angle is. Looks like about 30 degrees, I guess. And I use this like so. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to take the nut off now, was so that I can have full access. If the nut was there, I wouldn't be able to get over it. You know, I'd have to start from here. Now I'm just going to keep going until the bevel here comes down to meet the bottom of the bead. Let me just get a close-up of that for you. So right now you can see that the bevel is not quite there yet, and once it gets there, then I'll stop. Alright, now that the frets are all beveled, I'm going to just soften the ends out, because right now they're sharp. So I'm using this little file that has a ground edge that won't cut on this side, same on this side. That's it. Here's a little trick that I use to clean off the glue that I wick into the side of the fret. I didn't show this on the Eric Johnson guitar. I forgot to film it because I just did it. But here I have another one in for refret. This is just a 70s Strat. And let me show you how I do this. Right, so what I do is I take a nice sharp chisel. This one is a 1/2 inch bevel edge chisel. And I wrap a piece of Scotch tape around one side of it, maybe halfway, maybe not quite halfway. And the reason I do that is so that I can ride the file along the fret bead without having this edge of the chisel scratch the fingerboard. And because I'm using Scotch tape is very thin, it raises this side of the chisel just like that, but you know, ever so slightly, and it allows only this side of the chisel edge to dig into the excess glue that might be here. So I can't even see if there is any excess glue, but let's see. A little bit. Yeah, there was a little bit there, not much. Let's try a different one. I can see some here at the end. And a little bit there too. Okay, let's move on to the nut. All the fret ends are beveled. For nut material, I'm using a bone blank, but this is a saddle blank, not a nut blank, and it doesn't have a curved bottom or anything. The reason I get a saddle blank is because I can generally get 2 Strat type bone blanks out of just this one blank. Yeah, sure, I have to cut my own radius on the bottom, but I don't mind. So I'm just setting it into the slot and tracing out the radius. So here's the bone blank. I just came back from the belt sander where I roughed out the curve, and now what I'm going to do is refine the curve so that it matches the radius of the fingerboard exactly. And so what I do is simply lay a piece of sandpaper here at the end of the neck, and sand the curve in. The reason I go to the end of the neck is because it's wider than the nut end, because there's a little bit of overshoot on each side when you're sanding back and forth that you want to be able to get. Otherwise, the radius won't come out quite right. This is 180 grit sandpaper. You can use other things. Like you could make yourself a 12-inch radius wheel and double stick some sandpaper to the edge of it, you know, a piece of plywood or something like that. That would do it too. Let's take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So what I'm looking for is for the curved bottom of this bone blank to mate perfectly with the slot in the neck. So I'm looking at the edge here. Just bring that up to show you. You want to make sure you see no gap right there, and same thing on that side. So it looks good. It's nice and tight. Now I will trim the piece to length and height. Alright, now I'm going to cut the profile of the nut, you know, kind of along this line. Normally I would use my inlay saw. It's like a jeweler saw. However, I lent it to a guy I know who wanted to practice, start doing some pearl inlay, and the guy ran off with it, stole it on me. You know who you are. Thanks a lot, buddy. Anyway, so I'm just going to use the hacksaw for this. You want to support, if you do this, you want to support the blank, because it can crack off. And there we have it. And look, I've got enough left for another, maybe another strat nut, maybe not, might not be tall enough, but definitely enough left on this side for another nut. Yep. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to add is that you want to make sure that the bottom of the nut slot is clean, free of glue and debris. Watch it on the edges here, this one and this one. You don't want to round it over too far, because then you'll see the gap. The nut won't fit properly. Just getting rid of the glue. Alright, so I've got one end of the nut profiled the way I want so that it sits perfectly flush in the slot. And there we are. And the reason I only do one end first is because I want it to fit in, and then I'll trim the other end so that it's perfectly flush as well. Alright, so I've got the bone nut profiled the way I want it. I had to do a test fitting a number of times so that the the width is exactly right. When I place it and make this end flush, I can run my thumbnail and feel that it's flush, it's not catching. There we go, that's perfectly flush there. And I want to be able to feel the same thing on the other side. Great, that's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this in with some aliphatic resin glue, or yellow glue. The reason I use that instead of something like CA, for instance, is because CA gives you zero working time. As soon as you put that drop of glue on there and set it in the slot, it just grabs and it won't allow me to position it, you know, if I have to move it slightly from side to side to get it perfect. And besides, the yellow glue works really well with bone on bare wood. I'm going to use this old nut and transfer the string slot locations to the new one, just to put them in the same place, you know. I'll be able to finesse this with my files when I actually start to cut it. I can finesse the slots one way or the other, just depending on how I roll the file. So for now I just want to rough them in. I'm not even bothering with changing the gauge of the file for every slot at this point, because I'm going to just lay the strings in and see how they space out and adjust from there. This is how I crown a fret. As you can see, it's been leveled with this diamond leveler. I use it, it's actually a sharpening stone, but I use it for a leveler as well, fret leveler. And what I do is I look for the light that reflects off of the scratch marks that the diamond stone left in the fret top. I think you can see that in the camera. I don't bother with, you know, some people mark it with marker, and then when they file, you know, they look to see where the marker is left and when it's gone away. No time for that. I can just look at the angle of the light on the scratches and tell when it's gone. Right there, see in the middle? It's gone. I'm not going to file any more in the middle. I'll do this end. This is a StewMac diamond fret crowning file, by the way. And that fret is done. I hope you can see that on the camera. Alright, so this next operation is regarding polishing the frets. This is the last step, and the problem is that I didn't realize when I was doing this on the Eric Johnson Strat neck that the camera ran out of memory. So I'm just going to show this to you on a different Strat neck. Here we go. Now the way I like to get these frets to a high polish is after the 150 grit StewMac crowning file, I'll go with a series of sandpaper grits. Starting at 400, I'll go across the fret. And I'm really pushing down hard. Got my fingers spread out so that as I go over the frets, I'm getting into the side of the fret wire as well. And I'm going to do this until all of the chatter marks from the fret file are gone. A little trickier getting the sides of the higher frets because they're closer together. So I might use just my thumb and kind of push it that way. Alright. Now, in order to get the 400 grit marks off of the fret wire, I'm going to go with a lower grit paper, 320. But rather than going this way, I'm going to go this way. Because what happens is, it's a lot easier to see the marks that you take out by going 90 degrees across the previous marks. So now when I do this, I'm going to do it here in the middle so you can see better. But this is where I really want to kind of wrap the paper around my thumb and get into the corner with my thumbnail. So I don't want to just polish the top of the fret, I want to polish the whole thing. Alright, so that's one. That one's done, and I'll go ahead and do the rest of them. Okay, so I've done all the frets with 320 going this way, getting my thumbnail right into the edge where the fret meets the fingerboard and on top. And I can see that I've gotten rid of all the 400 scratches that were going this way. Now, I'll take a 600 grit paper and go this way. Same as before with the 400. Try and squeeze in, especially up here at the higher frets. And I'm getting rid of the marks of the 320 paper. The fact is that it's a lot easier to scratch up a fret when you go laterally like this. This same paper, it would be difficult to take out, okay, what have I got here? This is 600. If I go this way and put in 600 grit scratches and then try and get those 600 grit scratches out by going this way, it'll take me a long time. That's why I go to a lower grit when I go this way. Okay, so we'll do the whole thing with 600. After going 600 this way, we're lowering the grit to 400 and going with the fret wire. So you see the pattern here. We started with 400 going this way, and then with a lower 320 we go this way, then we take 600, go this way, and then go down to 400 this way. Okay, so after the 400 this way, we go to 1500 across the frets. And now from here we go to 600 with the frets. Alright, so after the 600, now we take a green 3M Scotch-Brite pad and lightly go this way. Just lightly. And that's it. Now we go back to our 1500 paper and go along the fret. And I'll do all of them that way. Right, so I finished all the frets going along this way with the 1500 paper, and last but not least is extra fine steel wool, and we go the same way, this way, and this puts the high polish on it. And there we have it. All the frets are beautifully polished, and this will make for silky smooth bending.